Alright, now onto the gaming segment of the show, and today I've got something which is from a developer I've covered before. In the past I covered a game called Apotheon, which was that Greek side-scrolling melee RPG shooter thing which was set in ancient Greek mythology. Well, the developers Alien Trap Games have come up with a new title which is currently in early access, and I've been checking it out. It's called CRYPTARK. Now CRYPTARK is interestingly very different in many ways from Apotheon, so they are actually trying to do very, very different things. So first of all, CRYPTARK is a sci-fi side-scrolling shooter thing, and it's also a roguelike, which means you have sort of one shot going through the missions, and if you sort of fail on that one shot, well, you got to restart, but you get to keep some upgrades and stuff like that. So the setting of CRYPTARK is that you are sort of a space scavenger. You're going into these ancient derelict spaceships, and you're going in there to try and salvage what you can, get the upgrades you can, and make a lot of money. And it is quite an interesting economic game as well, because the game is all about money. When you start a mission, you got to spend money on your robot and weapons and all of that. And if you don't manage to make enough money, well, you go bankrupt and you lose the game. So CRYPTARK's looking very, very nice, especially considering it's early access. So let's jump into the game and have a closer look at what the gameplay is really like. So what's the gameplay like? Well, it's if you remember Apotheon, it is still 2D side-scrolling, sort of a shooter thing, but this one is a lot more hectic and it's a lot more action-packed. So it's a bit less focused on the narrative, because Apotheon was very narrative-heavy. This one is all about quick reflexes, reaction timing, and actually managing to shoot and dodge and block all sorts of things going on at the same time. It is one of those side-scrolling shooters that has a lot of bullets on the screen. Now, it's not quite like a bullet hell or anything like that, but it is very, very hectic. And one of the main criticisms of the game so far is that it's actually very difficult. But it is a roguelite. Roguelikes are supposed to be very difficult to complete, because once you manage to get all the way through, well, then that's one round done. But of course, you get more unlocks, and things can get more interesting as you unlock more things. So there's no difficulty level right now. There's no difficulty setting, because, well, they're probably just still trying to balance how all the enemies and stuff work together. But as a production, it is actually very, very solid as it is now. You could actually buy the game now and it works fine. It's actually very, very fun. And I love that it is something that's not completely different from their previous title, but it is something very, very new. So one problem a lot of game development companies tend to get stuck in is they keep making the same game over and over again. But this one, it is something different, even though it's sort of on the same engine. So CRYPTARK is all about entering these derelict spaceships and actually trying to kill a lot of enemies. And you have to sort of disable shields, disable security systems, and take out the brain of each sort of ship, so you can actually earn the money from it. And of course, there's sort of bonus objectives around. But one thing that really does sort of make the game really hectic is the time limit. Every time you enter a ship, you have a certain amount of time. If you finish the mission before that time runs out, you get some bonus cash. But the longer you take, there's more and more penalties, so you lose more and more cash if you take a long time. So it's sort of that on-the-fly sort of strategizing whether you should go for those bonus objectives or not. And that's really cool. So one big thing that is about the game is the customization of your character. You sort of fly this robot around, and you get to customize 4 different weapon slots and 4 different item slots and your amount of health. So all this, of course, does cost money in game, and but customizing the 4 weapon slots, they give you a lot of options. You can put a shield on, there's a melee sort of boost attack, there's heavy machine guns, there's grenade launchers, there's even nukes if you're big into the big explosions and know how to use them properly. So CRYPTARK is very hectic, very action-packed, and it is very different from Apotheon.
Cripple the drone factories to halt reinforcements. Bring the shield generator offline. Then take down the core.
So, is CRYPTARK for you? Well, it's just about 30 ringgit on Steam, so it's not that big of an investment. Though it is in early access, that does also mean that it's going to be adding in more features, more enemies, more all sorts of cool things as time progresses. And Alien Trap have sort of proven themselves to be pretty good developers with their previous title. If you're looking at CRYPTARK because you're following Alien Trap because of Apotheon, you might not like it as much because Apotheon was very narrative heavy and CRYPTARK is a roguelite which doesn't actually have all that much story behind it because it is more of a shooter, an action-packed shooter. Though if you like those sort of bullet hell games or shooter games like Metal Slug or those flying games where you're flying up the screen and shooting a bunch of enemies, well, you're probably gonna love CRYPTARK. But overall, the production value is very, very solid. Voice acting's great, music's great, animation looks cool, art style looks great. So overall, it's looking like a very promising shooter game. And if you're into shooter games, then you're gonna love CRYPTARK.
Clear for launch. Weapons free. Let's move out.
All right, and before I go, I want to thank our wonderful hosts here at Peak at Empire Damansara. They got some wonderful cakes and coffee that look absolutely delicious. So check it out.
We're at the end of another episode of Gadget Nation, and I'm slightly saddened because, well, it's the end of the episode. But I'm also happy. Why? Well, because I get to play with new gadgets next week. So give us about a week to prepare. And of course, we'll be back same time, same place. In the meantime, find us online, the Astro Awani website, because there's lots of great content there, which we constantly update for you to stay on top of things in the world of technology. My name's Adam Carruthers. Till next time.